The road to WrestleMania is now in full swing, and Fastlane is the last pay-per-view, the last stop, prior to going down to Texas and taking care of WrestleMania. Fastlane also features something that is extremely important, and that's us discovering who will be the number one contender for Triple H's WWE Championship. Now, first of all, I could easily go into why I think Triple H becoming the champion and them going in this direction was, once again, WWE taking the safe and easy way out, although many would contend that this works very well with the storyline with Roman Reigns. I'm here actually to do something very different. I'm here basically to admit that I accept the fact that this is reality, even though it's still kind of silly to me. There's a lot of different ways they could have taken the Royal Rumble, but they decided to go with this one. And here, instead, I'm here to paint you with 3 different scenarios with how Fastlane could end and how WrestleMania could be affected by it. Now, one of the big things and one of the big problems that WWE has found themselves in is that they have booked Brock Lesnar so strong. And by the way, the matchup obviously is Brock Lesnar versus Dean Ambrose versus Roman Reigns. They have booked Brock so strong that to have him come out of this without the victory would involve one of 2 things. And that's the fact that it would either involve complete and utter shenanigans or they're trying to put Roman Reigns over on Brock Lesnar. Either that, or since it's a triple threat, Brock Lesnar simply doesn't get pinned. Either way, the first thing that I will say to you is that there's a good chance that Brock Lesnar will not be the individual that takes the pin in this variety, because I think that this is a storyline, not to mention this is an overall function that has a little bit more of a Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose angle attached to it than anything else. However, if Brock Lesnar does win, there's a lot of interest in that. Brock Lesnar versus Triple H probably wouldn't be the best main event of all time at WrestleMania, but it certainly would be one that would perhaps paint Triple H in a corner a little bit more. One that may cause a little bit more nervousness, or at least it should. Considering what Brock has been able to do with The Undertaker and with other superstars that get into his way, he is one that certainly looks at the Authority with a little bit of scorn and a little bit of bane. And to get his hands on the boss would certainly be something that would be kind of awesome to see. But of course, Triple H would always go in there being the resolved, badass that knows that he has every opportunity and capability to win. But here's a spoiler alert for you. There's a very, very good chance, regardless of who wins at Fastlane, they're walking out of WrestleMania with the title. And the only reason why that wouldn't happen would be based around shenanigans that surround options 2 and options 3. This is option 1, Brock Lesnar winning. Brock Lesnar would win, he would go to WrestleMania, he would face Triple H, he would win, he would get the title back, and they would go from there. This one's actually really boring. It's boring not because Brock Lesnar as a champion is boring because of that whole temporary thing, or, he only does certain numbers of shows and blah, 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 all of that other horse crap. It's actually more boring because it's extremely expected. It's one that you could easily see happening. Now, they could easily throw a curveball and perhaps just toss up a briefcase for a WrestleMania show just to add a further swerve. But then it would almost seem as though they were selling the idea that whoever gets that briefcase is going to cash it in that night. Kind of as a way to have Triple H win clean at WrestleMania or not lose clean at WrestleMania or whatever it might be, but yet still drop the title to somebody. Maybe a quick and easy way for it to remain in the Authority. In the second idea, in the second potential scenario, we have Roman Reigns winning this matchup. And this one, I'm sure for a lot of people, feels very obvious as well. It feels obvious because the storyline, as it seems, is 100% based around Roman versus the Authority. Roman versus Triple H. Roman is kind of supposedly supposed to be the Stone Cold Steve Austin of this whole idea, where he has obviously drawn the ire, drawn the scorn of the Authority, and is, they're doing everything in their power to make sure that he does not become the champion. They stack the odds against him at the Royal Rumble. They've stacked the odds against him again here at Fastlane, although not nearly as large. He had to win his way in, and now he has to defeat 2 other superstars to potentially even have a shot at WrestleMania. It seems like this is what they're building for, and this would honestly be so typical. It would be so expected that Fastlane, for one, would seem really cheap and just a bridge, which it is, but you really would want to have something a little bit more than that happen. But secondly, it would also really paint the picture before the picture's meant to be displayed. And it would really affect WrestleMania buys, in my opinion. Roman Reigns fans would obviously still want to buy the pay-per-view, considering there's a really, really good chance that he would end up walking out there with the championship. However, those that are more casual fans, that want a little bit of suspense, a little bit of surprise, they might be willing just to pass it by. Unless, of course, they already have the network. The third scenario is a little bit more interesting. This is one that a lot of people are starting to get on board of predicting, which actually is now decreasing the capability or the propensity that it may happen, considering folks are starting to feel a little clairvoyant. Dean Ambrose winning. Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns, the seeds have really been sown over the past couple of weeks of a potential destruction of their brotherhood, which would be a really, really good thing, because these two really do need to continue on individual paths and only hook up if need be. But at the end of the day here, there would be no need for them to do that, because they wouldn't be together. In fact, they would be more along the lines of enemies. To have Dean Ambrose win this matchup, you have to have a couple of things happen. First of all, somehow, some way, Brock Lesnar needs to be dispensed of. And this is something that can be handled in various ways, whether it be a run-in from the Authority, a run-in from Bray Wyatt, have there be some sort of setup for a WrestleMania match that occurs right there at Fastlane to essentially sow the seeds into an actual plant. But either way, it has to be Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns at the end of the day beating the holy hell out of one another. Either that, or Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose striking up this sort of 2 versus 1 philosophy against Brock Lesnar in order to try to wear him down, only to have Dean Ambrose be the one that breaks that. It doesn't mean that Dean would turn heel. Probably not. In fact, Dean would probably become an even larger face with this move, simply because the crowd is so sincerely behind him, and they're kind of iffy about Reigns, even though Reigns has been booked to be basically a Superman, and have to essentially go through hell just to even have an opportunity to hold the title for a month. So yeah, the build for Roman Reigns has really just gone south. Maybe it's actually time for Reigns to be the heel, and for Dean Ambrose to be the super face that he already kind of is. But to have him win, and have him go into WrestleMania, you could even impose a secondary wrinkle. You could have something happen where it becomes a triple threat match at Mania as well, between Ambrose, between Reigns, and between Triple H. You could have this happen because the heel Reigns would beg to do what he wants, and perhaps there'd be some sort of allegiance that would be forged that would make Roman Reigns either heir to the throne, but it really doesn't make very much sense at this stage. You almost want to slow burn this a little bit. Whether or not Roman Reigns turns heel or they do any sort of turn at Fastlane, the one thing that needs to be abundantly clear is the fact that if it's Reigns and he immediately aligns with the Authority, something's going to smell funny. And it's not going to smell dead. It's going to smell more like, what's this dookie? Either way, I think that WrestleMania has the opportunity to have an interesting main event. Triple H being champion doesn't exactly paint for too many scenarios, but I could just as easily see Dean Ambrose in this main event as I do Roman Reigns. Which one do I think would make more sense? Would actually be Dean Ambrose. Because it would actually fill one of the most important things that Roman Reigns has going for him. If you don't do the turn at Fastlane, if you have Dean Ambrose win, and you have Dean Ambrose win at WrestleMania, while Roman Reigns, even if he's supporting his buddy, you can still eventually have that turn into jealousy. You can have that turn into the seeds of a rivalry. It can turn into something more than what it is. Either way, the scenario that I'm hoping for is a Dean Ambrose victory. I think it makes more sense now, and I think that it's time for him to have that opportunity. Roman's had the opportunity. Roman's not been able to get 100% through to the fans, through to the people. And I think that it's just time for them to take a look at this experiment and see that it's not going the way that they hope. It's not going the way that they want. But what do you guys think? Who should win at Fastlane? What should be the match at WrestleMania? And who should walk away in Dallas, Texas as the WWE Champion? I'm Cover Killer Nation versus the World, and we will talk after this pay-per-view to see exactly what happened and examine exactly what WrestleMania may lead. In fact, we may even do a mock card. So if you are not subscribed already, hit the button. I'll talk to you later.